Welcome to the first in the series of Our Awesome Authors. The purpose of this show really is to acquaint the audience at home with what kind of writers we have here in our own Salem-Keizer community. I myself am a junior author, having been a journalist for about 50 years, and had one book called, never mind what it's called, because the focus is on our special guest today, who is none other than Kanta Luthra.
Thank you.
And as I said, the purpose of our show is, this is going to be the format. We're going to begin by learning a little bit about the author, and then we will plow into what she's writing and the characters and the purpose of the book. Is that okay with you, Kanta?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Kanta and I know each other from the Center 50 Plus. Every Wednesday at 1 to 3 p.m., they have a prose and poetry group in Room A, Conference Room A. You're all invited to come by and see us do our thing and learn a little bit about writing, and bring your own writing if you'd like to. This is how I first learned about Kanta and her writing career, which has been quite prolific over the years. And Kanta was born in what is now India. No, it's now Lahore, Pakistan, but was then India when it was still a Commonwealth under British rule. So let's go back to those early days, Kanta. What was it like when you were growing up? What was Lahore like? Could you give us kind of
I really don't remember that much because I was quite young by the time the country was partitioned. I was like 9 or 10 at that time. So I don't remember too much about it, but what I remember was that it was a beautiful city because 2005 I went back to my homeland, or my, where I was born, and it had changed quite a bit.
What changes did you see?
Well, it has grown to be more buildings, more people, more conservative.
More traffic.
More traffic, of course. Muslims are more conservative than the people in India, and more restrictions on women than it's in India right now. Women are more liberal and they have more rights than what it is right now. But when I was growing up, my dad was the registrar of Punjab University, and he went to Oxford University where he got his doctorate. So he was a well-known writer, speaker, public speaker.
What did he write about?
He wrote fiction, he wrote short stories, he wrote articles for some of the magazines, like the weeklies, illustrated weeklies, and for other. And then he was, before he became the registrar, he was the vice principal of a training college where students went for teaching, teachers training college.
Kanta, is his writing style similar to yours, or did it inspire what you have evolved to?
I don't know about that because we lost everything that he used to write in the riots. But he inspired me because I learned to read as a young girl, and we had a library in the house that was, I think, about this room, and we had books from all over the world. And
very cosmopolitan atmosphere.
Right. And so he'd just kind of make me want to read. We had picture books about Shakespearean plays and stuff, and I'd look at them, and he'd just whet my appetite, and then he'd say, okay, now you read yourself. So that made me start reading at an early age, and I admired him so much that I wanted to be like him.
Good role model. Tell us, most Americans don't know about Indian history and the riots and partition. Could you give us a little background so we can set the context of your story?
It's as you know, India is a very old country.
True.
And so many different people from Persia, from Iraq, and all those Afghanistan. They came and conquered, and somehow they assimilated with the culture that was prevalent, and then they brought their culture. Mm-hmm. So if you go to India, you'd find that there is architecture from the beginning. Like you'd see some lot of Muslim Mughal impact on the buildings. Then the Christians, and then there are some like the French influence if you go to Goa, to the south of the country. Mm-hmm. So there has been a lot of invasions and a lot of different cultures that have imposed on Indian, the basic native culture.
Yeah, tell us about the historical event. What happened in the partition? It was bloody, right?
Yeah.
Very violent.
It was, the country was divided by the ratio of population. Mm-hmm. The Muslims wanted to, Mr. Jinnah, who was the instigator, or you could call him the builder of Pakistan, the architect of Pakistan. Yes. He wanted a separate state for the Muslims. And India is a democratic country. It's a secular country. We have more Muslims than there are in Pakistan right now.
Didn't know that.
So in 1947, the country was divided, and it wasn't planned how it was going to be divided. Nobody paid attention to the people. They called a cartographer from England who had never been in India before. I can't remember his name right now, but he is mentioned in the book.
So he messed up.
And so he came here, and it was so hot, they say, when he came here. And everybody was clamoring that this part of the country should be ours and it would stay in Pakistan or India, that he got really tired and he took the map and he just put a line in between.
Wow.
And so people who had been in the now what was Pakistan got all worried what was going to happen, if they were going to lose their homes and things, and then this ethnic cleansing started, and people started killing in the name of God and just butchering, setting homes on fire, buildings on fire, arson, rape, molestation. So
these
all
are
that
the people
happened.
themselves, not an army as such.
The army was called in. Yeah. Even the military was divided, because at the time of there's a book called Spoils of the Division. And I just found it at 50 Plus the other day. And it talks about how the country was divided, even the libraries, the military, the post office, the banks, everything got split. And so that one part could go to one side. The university where my dad used to work, he was supposed to bring all the files and everything that related with the Indian and the Hindu and Sikh students. And then the Muslims, so it was divided. The university was divided.
Your own family, I think you said your uncle brought you up?
That I call him
assassinated?
He was sassy. He was stabbed to death 13 times.
Wow.
And we had to leave the country at that time, and then I saw a lot of violence in that time. I saw women being raped and
in the streets.
Pardon me?
In the streets.
In the streets, they were dragged out of their homes while the parents were watching. The dad or the brothers were watching, and they raped the women, gang raped them, and then they killed the family.
Terrible.
And many times the women, some of the women who wanted to protect their honor, they took poison packets so that they could ingest before they were raped to save their honor. So in my book I have mentioned that this group of women who are widows to protect their honor, they carry the cyanide. And if they feel like they are threatened that they'd be raped, they'd just take that right then.
Commit suicide.
Commit suicide. Many women jumped in the wells or just tried to kill themselves so that they wouldn't fall into the hands of the...
Americans have not been exposed to those kinds
No,
of
no,
things.
you have never.
We've
You've
been
had civil war.
We've been somewhat protected.
Yeah, you had
essentially.
civil war, but it didn't have that kind of stuff going. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into how you first decided to become a writer and what motivated you.
I can't tell you when, because as a child, as far as I can remember, I would write little things and scrunch them up and throw them away, even when I was...
When you say little things, tell us, what do you mean by little things?
Oh, I'd write a little poem, or I'd write, I love India, or I'd write something about a teacher that I liked a lot, and I'd just write, or my dad, and or my aunt who was not very kind to me. I'd just write it, and then I'd scrunch it and throw it away.
Good literary word.
So finally, I started writing this book that we are going to be talking about, Beyond the Reach of Darkness, about, well, I think it was 83 when I was working at the state hospital
Here in Salem.
for the adolescent
Here
children.
in Salem.
And there was a lady who kind of, Glenda Melton was her name, and I'd write little things, scribble little things, and she said, why don't you start writing, that you have such neat ideas. And so she encouraged me to start working on this book that finally I have finished.
Okay, you gave me a synopsis. It's more than a page, but I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs just to kind of set the stage for the audience with some drama.
Okay.
It's synopsis of Shakti, S-H-A-K-T-I. You could explain why you got the name Shakti when you...
I will after you're finished reading.
Okay. Shakti is a mainstream novel of 10,500 words set in Lahore, India, period 1935 to 1948. That's in this country, Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman. It has the backdrop of World War II, India's struggle for freedom, and the Hindu-Muslim community riots, which caused the massacre and displacement of millions of people and the partition of the country. Trapped in the inexorable framework of Hindu Orthodox society, in which women, especially widows, have virtually no rights, Shakti surmounts all misfortunes and injustice meted out to her by her ambitious father and in-laws. She creates her own niche in spite of poverty, illiteracy, and social ostracism. And Shakti Verma is her name, from a desperately poor family. Tell us a little bit briefly about how poverty in India is very different from poverty in this country.
Well, it depends on what you call poverty. Here, people who are on welfare, I think they live much better than middle-class people in India, because everybody here has a refrigerator, they have a car, they have TV, they have, I mean, they get food.
Without TV, we'd have no audience.
Yeah, right. I mean, they are pretty well off, but in India, poverty means stark poverty, where people don't have even the running water. But then there are people who are so rich, they are like live in fancy, fancy palaces, and they have money to burn. You know, they can squander. They have Mercedes. They have, and right in front of their house might be on the street. People are living there. Their daily life, they are living on the streets. So there's a stark kind of disparity between the rich and the poor. And then there is the middle class. And the middle class people are getting to be better off now because they are sending their children to schools and colleges, and they are becoming more aware how education can help you to get better jobs. So there are three basic classes in India right now: the poor, the middle class, and the rich, the filthy rich. So I don't know how I can explain to you, and I haven't been
You've done
here.
a good job. You've given us outline. I'm going to have you read a little bit of this, and then take the opportunity to maybe interrupt and ask a few questions based on
You
this.
asked me why I called this Shakti.
Yeah.
Actually, I've changed the name of the book to Beyond the Reach of Darkness.
Beyond the Reach of Darkness.
Darkness. That's right now the title, but if I send it to the, start sending, they might want me to change it.
You're still looking for a publisher right now?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, this is chapter 1. It was an early summer morning of 1935. Chiniot, a small town of northern state of Punjab, now in Pakistan, sizzled under the relentless sun. In a corner of a cow-dung plastered courtyard of a one-room thatched hut in a labor colony, Shakti half-heartedly stroked the logs with dry kindling to start the fire in the chula. 2 bricks at the back, stacked on each other, and 2 on each side, then coated with several layers of clay. Shakti's eyes smarted with acrid smoke. Dripping drops of sweat from her forehead sizzled on the smoldering logs as she inhaled deeply and blew full blast at the logs. Finally, the sickly bluish flames flickered, then crackled, leaping lustily in the chula. Shakti started breakfast for her father, a laborer at the new upcoming dam on the river Chenab. She placed an aluminum wok on the brazier, added a ladleful of oil and caramelized chopped onions, then poured in the mung lentils and vegetable soup her mother had made the night.
You're getting me hungry.
Yeah, the night before she went into labor. While she stirred the spluttering, steaming soup, her mind and ears were attuned to the muffled cries of her mother, writhing with labor pains inside the hut. All night long, Shakti sat by her mother, putting cool compresses on her sweaty forehead. This was her mother's 7th pregnancy. Only her younger sister Kamla and she had survived, and they had survived because their father was not there at their birth. After Kamla's birth, Ma had 3 miscarriages, a stillborn boy, then another girl. Learning about the birth of a 3rd daughter, her father, in drunken frenzy, had staggered home in the evening, fuming and cursing Ma for bearing only girls. He snatched the newborn from Ma's arms, leapt to the corner of the little courtyard where stood a large steel bucket full of water for daily needs. He dunked the baby's head face down into the pail, while Shakti, her sister and mother, pled with him, but he shoved them aside. In horror, they watched the baby flail her tiny arms and legs, gasp for breath, then lay still.
Okay, let's take a break here.
Could I just read one more,
sure.
because then I'll stop.
Okay, yeah.
Since she learned that Ma was pregnant, again Shakti prayed every night for a brother. No, she couldn't bear to see another girl baby killed by her father. She didn't know what she'd do to save the baby, but if she couldn't stop him, she might slash his throat with the scythe her mother used for chopping the spinach and mustard leaves. The very thought stunned her, but it wasn't the first time. Whenever he hit her mother, called her filthy names, Shakti seethed with rage and wished him dead. Please God, let Ma have a boy. Her lips moved silently. The swirling gray steam rising from the sunny morning reinforced her belief that God heard her prayer. I'd stop there.
Okay. This is very poignant, Kanta. What you're telling us is that in Indian society at that time, women were so devalued that their very birth was a threat to the male of the family. They only wanted boys to carry on the family estate or whatever. And girls were considered persona non grata, non-entities, and doomed for death. And according to what you say in this book, the father consistently killed his daughters practically at the doorstep of childbirth. We don't have this in this country.
Well,
as far as
we
I
do
know.
have. I have read that
Yeah,
a lot
well,
of.
it's not a. It's
Not
not
the-
played up in the news.
not
it's a rarity.
Yeah, it's
comparison.
not like you're not talking about the gender discrimination, but here too I read
Gender
that,
genocide.
Yeah, that in this country, the infanticide rate is higher than even in India right now. But it is true that in India, and there were some reasons for that, that women were not valued, as you said. Like a child, a male child would be
A trophy.
in an illiterate family, a male child would be more after 6 or 7 years, he would help his parents if you are not educated to make more money. But the girl was a liability for two reasons. There was no birth control methods, and if a 15-year-old girl was to do something, become pregnant, that would be an awfully shameful thing for the parents, the honor issue. The second was the dowry system, that at the time of marriage, the girl's parents had to give dowry, and some parents couldn't afford it. And even now, it's like...
They were trapped into that.
Yeah, so they thought that
position.
it was better to kill the girl, right? Spend about 2-3 rupees and have her strangled to death, or put opium on the nipple of the mom, so the baby just suckled and would just go to sleep.
Wow.
But
Incredible.
to have a girl to be 17 and then start looking for a husband for her, and then the boy's family demanding a dowry, which is still present in India right now. And there's a hue and cry that according to the government, dowry is illegal, but people are still doing it underhand. And so people who are not rich, it's a liability. And if you have 2 or 3 daughters, in those days they didn't have birth control.
Right.
So the family was in a bind how to get them the money to get them married. So there were reasons for that, and but that is what my book is about girls not being not worthy. Even after they get married, you know, it was like they were like the husband who had all the say.
So what can American society learn from the characters in your book? It's fiction, but it's based on people you know.
It is fiction, but it is, there's an awareness. Here we cry about our rights and how bad we have it. But the thing is that if you look, like you say, sometimes say, if somebody has a tragedy, you say, okay, look at somebody else. Nobody is free of that. But,
we all carry our crown of thorns.
Right, carry on. But if they look at the other part of the world, they would see that one thing, they are much better here than they are. I feel I'm much better here. I came here in this country. I was teaching in India in a college, but I virtually, my husband called all the shots. He was a professor, but he called all the shots. Even if I was...
Very controlling person.
Right, right. And I think most of the men are like that. Excuse me. But
Present company excluded, of course. I hope I'm not quite
so
in
anyway,
that
so
yeah.
I think...
We're on countdown mode.
Okay.
So well,
we can carry on the discussion later on because,
sure. But we want to give our home audience, hi there, home audience, we want to give you a preview to Kanta's book, And again, the title of the book is?
Beyond the Reach of Darkness.
Yes. When do you hope to see it published by the end of the year?
I hope so. I am keeping my fingers crossed. And right now the book is going through formatting. And I sent it before, and I had an agent who died. So I have to start all over again.
Why don't we take the next minute or two just to talk about how a new author gets an agent, and what do you look for in an agent to get it to past that category?
There are several ways that you can look at for an agent. One is to go to different writers' conferences. There are agents from all over who come over to the conferences, and you can pitch your book with them.
Good idea.
The second is like here in Portland, they have the Portland Writers Group, and every year in August they have the conference where all these writers and authors go there and they pitch for their books.
Networking.
So, yeah. And then there is another way that you have the writer's market, that a big fat book that you can get, and you can go through it.
Don't say fat, I'm offended. No,
okay.
I'm teasing.
Okay. So you can check the name of some of the agents and the editors that you can, well, the one thing you have to do is to find somebody who wants to publish this kind of a book.
Good.
And there are several Indian authors that have been published. One of them got a Booker Award, and then there are some others who have published.
Terrific.
So,
is it harder to get a book published in this country or in India?
I'm not sure, because look at all the books stores are full of books.
Yes.
So people are writing. Some trashy books are being published. So it
No
depends on, if you get the right person. One thing that people should know, that never pay an agent extra money. Like if somebody's saying, okay, I'll take your book for reading and you pay this much money, don't go to that agent. Okay, usually they don't charge you anything unless they sell your book.
Okay. We're winding up now. We have about another half minute.
Okay.
I want to thank our audience of CCTV for tuning in. Feel free to write to us, Lee Coyne, C-O-Y, care of CCTV 575, Trade Street, Southeast, here, Salem, Oregon, 97301, of course.
And thank you, Lee, for having me. I really appreciate that.
It's been fun.
Thank you.
And soon we'll have another show on the air. Thank you, everyone at home. Enjoy.
Thank you.